All right, so many of you have asked me, how do we manage our raspberries? And Shelly and I have tried different methods for tying up our raspberries over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years since we've had them planted. Or actually, it's probably been about 7 or 8 years now. But of the different methods we've tried, we keep coming back to my mother-in-law's method, and her husband, they do it a specific way that they've been doing for years, and it works out great for them. It's like low maintenance, really not difficult to do. It takes very little of their time, and it actually looks better than our method every year, and it just performs year after year. So I'm actually over here right now at her house, and that is her berry patch. So Jim, you're always asking me about her berry patch, and this is where the original thornless red raspberries came from, my mother-in-law's place. And I'm going to take you in there in a second, show you exactly what they do. So they've got a nice compost pile that Tom just keeps adding to and turning, and he puts this out on his gardens. But behind it, they've got, I think it's four different rows of raspberries. And right now it just looks like it's all overgrown, because it kind of is, but it's the end of summer. We're in August, actually towards the end of August now. And you can see that all the new growth is put on there. So right now it looks a little unkempt, but if we get in there a little deeper, which I will here, you'll be able to see that there's a method to their madness. The berry picking is all done for the year, and so it really doesn't matter if it's a mess right now. But back in the early to midsummer, when they were actually fruiting, it was really easy to get in there and just pick berries all day long. So let's walk on through here, show you what they've got going on, so we can solve this little mystery on how to keep raspberries tied up once and for all. I've been wanting to get over here and do the little video of this for a while for you guys now, because it's just such a slick method. But I'll go down the rows. It's kind of hard to see right now because everything's so overgrown, but maybe on the back side it'll be a little easier to see. They actually incorporate their chickens in with their berries, and the chickens come in here and they weed and keep everything all eaten down. In fact, I better go close that pen gate, or I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble here. I'm gonna be bringing chickens back in. All right, we got that done. So let's go ahead and get to the back of this thing where I think we'll be able to see it better. It has been such a long, hot, dry summer here this year, and you'll notice some of these, they even water these quite a bit, but some of them have got some leaves already starting to turn yellow and die back, probably just because of the heat and the dry weather. But we can see the rows a little bit better here. What Tom did was he built, these are 8-foot railroad ties, and he just built huge beds. And then they put compost in there over the years, and then eventually he put like, I think it's carpet that he turned upside down, or some kind of a material here to keep the weeds out. Not carpet, but some kind of something he got for free a long time ago. And over the years he has let his chickens in here, his horses in here. Actually, I think you can see some horse manure through here. Yeah, so he's had them in here at times. But in the end, the chickens have turned out to be the best thing to keep these weeds down, because you can see they go right through the rows and they totally till them all up and just eat all the weeds out of them. I mean, it just looks like they're doing a great job in here. In fact, there's a chicken back in there right now. But so here's what they do. He built 2 of these 8-foot wide rows by, I think they're 25 foot long. And then he put a row of raspberries on either end of it, and then this material down the middle and on the side so the weeds couldn't grow through. But the answer to your guys' question, how do they keep them all pulled upright? So you can see they're growing fairly upright right now, but they make things look a lot nicer than this. You can see it. They've just got a T-post separated about 2 feet on either side of these rows, each row. They've got them over here too. Actually, that one's a little closer. You didn't get too specific. But then they've just got wire running all the way down the rows on top and bottom. And you can see these little things they've made here just to hold the wires together. It's real simple. There's nothing pulled too tight, nothing crazy pulling on these. And, you know, over the years, Shelly and I always wanted to do this. You know, we're always overkilling everything, these permanent structures that, you know, with posts 3 foot deep, concreted in, pulling these wires tight. And you know what? You don't need it. And the older I get and the more I see the people doing the things the way they're doing, it doesn't take that much. And I love how they do this. So every year in the wintertime usually. They'll just kind of let all these leaves fall back where it's real easy. They'll come out here, take all these little ties apart. You just pull it in like that. It comes right out. And then they'll take all those apart, and then they'll just pull the wire down all the way to the ground. And then one person gets on either end, and they just pull the wire back up and hook it back onto the T-post here. And they do the same thing on the other side. And then they just pull it all together with these little ties. I mean, there's nothing fancy. It's really easy. And then once they get that done, you can see how tall some of these canes are. Some of them are 7 to 8 foot tall. I mean, I'm almost 6 foot, and that's right about there, and they still keep going up. But they'll get them all tied up in a nice thin row all the way down with these wires, and then they go along and just chop the top off of all of them. And you can see where they did that last year. There's last year's canes. See the top cut off, and then they branch out in the spring and provide lots of berries all the way down them. So I should come back out in the winter and show this to you guys. During the early spring, once they've gotten all these tied up through the winter, they just look like 4 beautiful, neat rows right down there, and they're just real tight. You can see how close they pull them together. They're real tight, and you got tons of room to walk between them. They're all hedged at the same height all the way across the top, and they actually look really neat. And then in the spring, when they start leafing out, then they just look really beautiful. They create just walls, not sloppy walls like they look like right now, because they're just growing through the summer, but they look like real contained, nice, neat walls of green. And then that part only shoots out so far, and there's just berries hanging down every aisle, and they're real easy to walk down these aisles and just pick berries. It just makes it really slick. So back to the original question, how do you maintain these things? Well, Shelly and I used to, we've done several things. At times I'll walk through and I'll just gather up with my arms a whole bunch of them, gather them together and like bear hug them, and then she wraps string around them. Then I'll go down a little further and grab another bunch of them, and it's just a big pain in the butt doing that. Another time, we grabbed a few and we bent them over. It looked really neat. We grabbed them and we bent them over and then tied them here and tied them at this spot so that they were, I don't want to tear this guy up, but we just bend them over like this and then just tie them at both places, and then we crisscross the other ones this way. So they look like a real nice tight line of them, but it was very time consuming, and I wanted to get away from that. And of all the different things I've tried keeping these berries tied up, every time I come over here and look at these berries, especially in the early spring when they're all tied up nice and tight and they're leafing out in walls of berries, I just go, what am I doing? What am I wasting all my time for trying to make these things look perfect? These look perfect at the right time of year, and then the rest of the year they just let them grow. And then they come back once in the wintertime and pull all the wires down, pull them up. It's real easy, and they just make light work of it. Anyway, so there you go. That's what they do here. It works out really great. It doesn't have to look perfect, but it does, and it looks fantastic at the right time of year. All right, so I believe that last clip was last summer or early fall, and we're all the way around to the next spring, so this spring 2024. I want to take you out into our orchard first and show you what we've done with our raspberries that kind of mimics my mother-in-law's, and then we're going to take you over to my mother-in-law's place and show you what her raspberries look like now after they've gone through the winter. They've tied them up, they've trimmed them down, they've got them all ready and prepared, set to go for this summer raspberry production. Let's go. All right, so here's what we've got going on here right now. It's springtime, things are starting to grow again. You can see the grass is growing up through there. We've got some ideas on how we're going to take care of that, but in the meantime, we have tried multiple methods of tying these raspberries up over the years. I love that we put the raspberry row right in the middle of, the grass here, so that we can mow down each side, and any little sprouts that pop up from the raspberries, because they do spread, any little sprouts just get mowed down. It's not an issue. Occasionally I'll get some coming up in the blueberry patch, and I just pull them up. So everything stays contained in this area, but everything's always flopped over. So in the past, we've done several things. One year, we actually had a line going straight down, just one line, and it was this metal wire right here. and we pulled it tight, and then we grabbed each individual cane and we flipped it over and tied it in two places to the line and kind of alternated, and then went this way. And it was a beautiful little single row all the way down, and we got tons of raspberries on it, but it was very time consuming and cumbersome. So the next year we just walked through, and I would get a clump from about here to here, and I'd just bear hug it into one big clump that came up to the center, and Shelly would tie a string around it. And then we did a whole bunch of clumps all the way down, and then trim the tops off so they weren't leaning over or too high. That worked that year, but it was still, you know, a little more labor, and you're getting in there and bear hugging these things and getting kind of tore up. But my mother-in-law does it this way, and I don't know why. For years she's done it this way, and we just kept not doing it this way. And finally I said, that's it, I give in, I'm gonna do it your way. So I put in T-posts, so we've got two runs here of wire. You can see one right here on this side, and then one over on this side, and they just run all the way down. And what they do now, these raspberries needed to get watered better last summer. You guys know that we're in the middle of a long process with the house. A lot of things got neglected, but when you water these well, they come up a lot stouter and a lot taller and thicker and bushier, and they are tall enough to stay between these two rows of wires. So every year, what my mother-in-law does is they drop them down, the wires, they just loosen them, drop them down to the ground, lay out all the canes that are falling down, and then pull the wires up, and it pulls everything tight. And you can see we did that. Now some of them are shorter and are still kind of sticking out a little bit, but these things were flopped all over here a week ago. But we pulled everything up into one little center area, and it just kind of contains it all. Now, what they do after that is make these little, it's just a little chunk of wire that you just bend two ends, and you just hook it on either side, and it pulls these wires in tighter and just pulls everything together. After that, if your canes are tall, they usually come along and just chop the top off of them at about 5 foot, and then you get all the raspberries right where you can grab them, right at an easy height, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's just the easiest method. It's no fuss. As they grow, see, like right here, I got one cane sticking out. I'll just wrap it under that wire, and it just goes real quick and easy, no big problem. We're gonna do a lot more watering here on this bed this year, and try to get everything to just really flush out thick and full and grow up real tall. And anything that grows outside of that wire is fine. Next year, we'll just drop that wire down and we'll pull everything up again. So let's head over to her house and let's take a look at what she's got going on. All right, so here we are over at my mother-in-law's place, and this is their raspberry patch. So let's walk in here and show you guys what all this looks like. And I just think this is the slickest setup on planet Earth, and this is why we ended up copying it over at our place. We got all the chickens in here, and they got their chickens, they let them run in here too, and they eat all the weeds out. You can see they got a lot fewer weeds than we do. The chickens get in there and keep all that beat down. But there's their rows, and I just think that is so awesome. And you can see they keep them watered well through the summer, so they come up real bushy and thick through here. And these stalks, these canes are real strong and sturdy. They come up at a good height, and then they pull these wires up and pull everything together, and then just cut the tops. You can see right, where is one? Anyway, you can see where they kind of, there it is. You can see where they kind of just go along and they cut the tops off of the real tall ones there. Everything's all bunched up real nice. You can walk right down the aisles, and we just get massive amounts of raspberries out of these patches every year. They feed all the daughters. There's 4 daughters, and then them, and everybody comes back multiple times usually in, what is it, June? And we pick all these raspberries and make jam. And anyway, this is the goal. This is where you want to be, and it's just super slick and easy because they just pull them up with the wires. There's no problem at all. He's got the same little tighteners on his. In fact, they've got 2 rows of wires. We may end up doing that. We'll see. We've just got the 1 row on ours for now. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys where this is at. They're just starting. We've got new growth just starting to come out on all of them. And these are the canes from last year. Now the new growth comes out, and you can see little tiny raspberries starting to form already at the tips of all of these plants. And all of these rows will just be covered in red berries here around June, and we'll be able to pick to our heart's content for several weeks until that season comes to an end. These don't bear all summer long. They just go for a few weeks and then it's over. But man, it is just buckets and buckets of berries. So there you go. That's their patch right now. What is it? April 18th, I think, today. And that's kind of how far along it is right now. It'll be another couple months before we're ready to pick, but love these raspberries. And they've got 4 rows here, so you really don't need that many rows. If it's just a couple of you, like I said, they feed multiple families with all these raspberries. All right, here we are. It's July 4th. Happy 4th, guys. And I'm back over at mother-in-law's house and just checking out all their raspberries. I wanted to just get this last little installment in and show you how we've come full circle. I think we started this last summer after the harvest, but let's head on in and see what we've got going on. They said there's just tons of berries on all these plants, and I can see them already. They're just hanging down, loaded up. Massive amounts of berries, look at that. And these things are so good. Shelly and the kids are over right now. We're gonna pick a ton of these things, and Shelly's gonna go home and make some freezer jam. And we usually do that once a year and load up on it for all the peanut butter and jelly. Man, there's a ton of them on there. All right, so let's head down this way and show you what's going on. We've got just 4 huge rows of berries. These guys have done a fantastic job with these things. Absolutely love it. See what we got. Look at this. Just massive bunches of them hanging everywhere. There you go, Jim. I know this is what you wanted to see. This is where they all originally came from. And I aspire to be as good at berry growing as these guys someday. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to get to picking on these because it is starting to get hot. It's 11 o'clock. It's already starting to get blistering hot out here. We're going to pick them before they all start falling off. This is all the new growth here, obviously. And the primocanes, and then the floricanes from last year are fruiting, and then these guys will become fruit next year. And so I think I was showing you in that video last summer and then through the winter how they tie these guys up with this wire here, and every year the cycle just repeats itself. But there it is. You got to see these things come full circle. Thanks, Tom and Joe, for letting us use your place and check all this out. All right, so that's it. I think we'll just end this one right here. It is now spring of 2025, and I need to get out there and get you guys an early rhododendron tour because there's a lot of really neat things. Thank you, Big Jim. There's a lot, yeah, it's Big Jim now, and we can talk about that later, but there's a lot of new things blooming, and I've got one of the most fantastic, he's backing me up, rhododendron beds you guys have ever seen. Let's get out there and check it out. That video will be coming. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, you know what to do. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to follow along. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.